Hey, SR Mori here for Mistwood Publishing, and if you could, please like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I would very much so appreciate it. And so, today I wanted to talk about somebody that's actually pretty important that we lost very recently, and that is Christopher Tolkien. And you might not know this, but he's actually the reason why we have a lot of things. He's done a lot more than maybe you realize. His father, as hopefully you know, J.R.R. Tolkien was the author of the wonderful, really life-motivating story, at least for me, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Both great books that I've read many times and great movies that I've seen even many more times because it's a lot easier to watch a movie. But something you might not know about J.R.R. Tolkien is he wasn't just a fantasy book author who, repopularized the genre and made fantasy what it is today. He also was a professor at Oxford. He was big into language. He translated Beowulf for us, even though that was technically already translated, but his translation is generally considered to be very good, and he's actually the first to translate the epic poem Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which is actually my favorite poem of King Arthur's tales. And he also translated the Pearl and Sir Orfeo, which I could be mispronouncing. But anyway, Tolkien did a lot that people might not know about, and so did his son. His son is the entire reason why we have this book here. So it has J.R. Tolkien's name on it, but you would not have the Silmarillion without his son, Christopher Tolkien, because he's the one that put all the notes together and organized it in a way that could give you a complete-ish story. And it's entirely Christopher Tolkien. He's the son that continued J.R.R. Tolkien's legacy. He's the reason why we have this. And from this, because of Christopher Tolkien, also stemmed the Lay of Beren and Lúthien, which is very important because if you don't know, this was a very important story. This is when Aragorn is singing in the Fellowship of the Ring, and Frodo asks him, "What are you singing about?" He's singing about this, and this is essentially, in my opinion, the most epic story that Tolkien ever wrote. In fact, on his tombstone, it has their names because he considered it to be, him and his wife, symbolically almost. So we have that because, you can see here it even says edited by Christopher Tolkien, So we have that. We have the fall of Gondolin because of Christopher Tolkien. He's the one that organized it all and made this, put it together. And we have the children, and I always mispronounce it, the children of Hurin. That's how I pronounce it. But all three of these are really, really good stories that Tolkien wrote that we would not have had none of this unless Christopher Tolkien picked up the gauntlet and continued his father's work. And in addition to this, there's a series of books that expands upon the Silmarillion, and that is the Histories of Middle-earth. And I only have the first 5 volumes of, I think, 8. But all of this is because of Christopher Tolkien as well. He's the one that made all of this stuff, all this extra stuff that his father didn't have enough time because he passed away. He's the reason why we have all these things. So the death of Christopher Tolkien is a profound impact. It's a big deal. It's a sad day. We lost a really good contributor to literature and everything related to Lord of the Rings. He's also, not just that, but he's also the reason that the Tolkien estate has kept the integrity that it has. He's the reason that that the Silmarillion isn't in the hands of some big movie-making corporation, because he felt that they weren't going to respect the material in a way that his father would have appreciated and liked. So he basically said no. and he's really kept the integrity of the Lord of the Rings. Because I know Amazon's making a show that's supposed to take place during the making of the rings, when Sauron is manipulating the elves and everybody into making their rings so that he then can make his ring. But I'm a little worried because, when they make Game of Thrones, they make it loyal to the author. For Game of Thrones, because of the author, it makes sense to have all of the gratuitous sex scenes and everything, but that doesn't work for Lord of the Rings. That's not that author. Tolkien was extremely conservative. He was, he would not want any of that in his books. And even like the more liberal things on sexuality and things, if any of that's in it, it would be a disrespect to the author, because he was a very devout Catholic. His faith was the most important thing to him, and you have to be loyal to the author. And I'm a little nervous that they're not going to do that. Now, some people are upset that there are people of color in the cast, and I'm like, well, there are people of color in the books. I mean, take a chill pill. That's not a big deal at all. I don't think that they're going to be doing any race bending. I mean, they might, but at any rate, Christopher Tolkien is the person that kept the integrity of the Tolkien estate, and now we don't have that. I don't know who's going to take his place, but we had a big loss here. He's also the one that did the maps for Middle-earth in the original books. Like, he did the maps for his dad. J.R. Tolkien didn't have the maps laid out. His son, he kind of like worked with his son to get that done. So Christopher Tolkien is the master, and we're very sad to see him go. But like his father, I'm sure that he is chilling with the Lord now. They're very devout Catholics, and like the good kind of Catholic. So yeah, sad week, but thank you, Christopher Tolkien. Thank you, J.R.R. Tolkien, for all of the amazing things that you did, and we will not forget you. Peace.